First. Hey, welcome aboard. It's the A Game. I'm Rob Akinpora. On my Monday here at Share Universe Studios on the Jersey Shore. The gentleman on the other side of me is checking in from a part of the country that, well, I could set this up perfectly, Miles, so bear with me. I'm going to give you a bunch of films. You're going to tell everybody what exactly they have in common. 12 Years a Slave, Live and Let Die, Red, The Toy with Richard Pryor, and 21 Jump Street.
All shot in and around New Orleans?
Thank you very much. Coming in from the Louisiana area, thank you very much. Filmmaker, actor, writer, Miles Doleac. And I had a feel I was setting you up on that, so thank you very much. And big props to Jeremy London, who's really an inspiring for me to reach out to Miles. And they have a new movie, Open, which we'll talk about. To set up Open, this is crazy, Miles. He was talking about this 2 years ago when he came on my podcast. So I'm going to play the clip that we had from that podcast, and then we can set up from where we're going from here. Here's Jeremy hinting at it 2 years ago, mind you, about the film that is now out called Open. Check this out.
I was about to say, why hasn't, maybe because there's not been an opportunity, but it would seem to be an obvious thing where a music movie of some ilk with you in it.
I'm getting ready to do that with actually the same people you just saw in the movie. Miles Doleac and Lindsay. Mm-hmm. I just got a text from Lindsay a few minutes ago, actually, that they've got the first rough draft of the script, but they're writing a character just for me in the next one. And apparently we're singing and playing music and so I have no idea what it's going to entail, but I can't wait.
I'm happy for you, man, because he just and again, if you follow him on Facebook, find these videos because he really does show off a great voice, and you can tell you're beaming while you're playing too. So you obviously have such great passion for it.
I do. I love it.
Miles, you see how much he was smiling, just the idea of doing this role. I mean, you knew right away that he was like, not only was he on board, he was just like super amped to do this.
Yeah, it was very clear from the outset that Jeremy was ready to dive in head first, no holds barred. And it's, it was a little mildly angst inducing for Lindsay and I as the writers of this, because if your audience has seen our movie, there's a little meta element to this character, Eric LaRue. Mm-hmm. There are some traces of Jeremy's own story. From having been this TV heartthrob in the 90s, just sort of, falling off. And now we're seeing him really have this kind of resurgence, which I just think is wonderful. He's
absolutely
such a talented guy. A lot of people don't realize what a talented singer and musician he is.
Right.
And, I had seen some of the same Facebook and Instagram videos that you're referring to in that interview with him. And I'm like, man, this guy sings and plays guitar. We can use that.
Yeah.
But it was very clear when we sent him the script the first time. He was like, I think he was traveling or something. And he was like, I got to get on a plane and I'll read it as soon as I hit the ground. Well, turns out he wound up reading it on the plane. And within a couple of hours, we heard back, wow, this is fantastic. I'm in.
It's interesting what you're talking about, that you kind of utilize some of his real life in a sense, just because the reflection of his character to his real life. And in a strange way, I've been reading up. He's getting some of the best reviews of his career right now with this film, which has got to be even more satisfying for you with this.
Well, I often say that casting is about 85% of directing.
Yeah.
It's finding that precise, right individual talent performer to embody the character on the page.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you write a role with a particular actor in mind, having worked with that actor on a couple of shows, having known the actor personally, and, you're able to sort of capitalize on their mannerisms and their sort of overall personality and affect. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way. Knowing Jeremy and having worked with Jeremy and knowing the types of things that Jeremy really excels at as a performer, but I think with this one in particular, there was a kind of fearlessness in his performance and a brazenness in his performance that we haven't seen from Jeremy in a while.
Right.
And I'm just so grateful that he trusted us in this process, and he trusted me as his director.
No, I understand what you mean. Absolutely.
You know, to do right by him as an actor, and he knew that, I think that his performance, that whatever he tried, whatever weird over the top thing he tried, was in safe hands.
Yeah.
That he knew that in the cutting room that I was going to make it work. And I wanted him to throw it all at the wall.
And does it help? Yeah. Does it help? Because from that interview 2 years ago, I believe we were talking about the film Demigod. And in that movie, he's throwing into talking in a different language for the first time in his whole career. So he's got to learn a whole new language. You threw him completely off the deep end on that film. So did it help to have that experience with him, that he kind of knows, well, if Miles is willing to go there, I'm going there with him. I can trust him enough to know, like you said, he's in good hands with me.
Well, I think one of the things that Jeremy has said to me, one of the reasons that he does have this sense of comfort and freedom with us is, you know, he said, I love these things that you give me. You allow me to play in the sandbox and do these sorts of unusual roles that people haven't trusted me with, really.
Right. Well said. Well said.
Right. This crusty German grandfather character who's made a deal with this ancient nature entity, who's kind of creepy but wizened at the same time. It's maybe not what everyone would immediately see Jeremy London doing. Yeah. But I knew Jeremy had it in him. And I've been following Jeremy London's career since the get-go. You know, I watched Party of Five. I saw Mallrats when it came out. And getting to know him a little bit as a human being,
right,
and being fortunate enough to call him a friend, I know what he's capable of. And I don't think in every circumstance the industry has given him the type of material that really allowed him to stretch his legs. And so in these past few years when we've been working with him, Lindsay and I made it our mission to do that. And man, has he delivered.
Oh, big time. Big time. And you're going to get a lifetime supply of pepper jelly because of it. You know that.
I love that pepper jelly.
It's really,
I hope you're listening, Jeremy. You send me some pepper jelly. But when you read those reviews that say, hey, maybe this is the best thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
The most gratifying thing is getting to send those reviews to Jeremy over text and then seeing his response, how meaningful that is to him. I mean, he's truly, genuinely moved by the reception that this performance is getting. And that is, for a director, just the most gratifying thing of all.
You mentioned Lindsay before. That is your wife, Lindsay Ann Williams, who's also part of the movie. If I can have photo number 2, it kind of matches the poster in his background. The movie is open. This is the movie that has just come out. It's on limited release. It's also on video on demand, so you can get it from your home. It is worth checking out. A very ambitious plot by Miles, as you were talking about, a couple who decides to open the relationship, and then Jeremy, being the down-and-out actor that he is, kind of comes into the fray. But the ambitious part of it is you tie this all in with these moments that involve, I'll say it this way, new wave 80s, early 90s music. And I read what the critics say. The ones who get it think it's brilliant. The ones who don't get it kind of get lost. So it's that if you get this, you're on a 2-hour ride that you're thoroughly satisfied and you're going to be like, wow, mind blown, holy crap. And if you don't, and that happens with every film, Miles, you know this. If you don't get it, you don't get it. But if you really get this, you're just in for just such a treat.
Yeah, we didn't want to play this safe. We knew it may not necessarily be.
By the way, you did not.
We knew it may not necessarily be a film for everybody.
Right.
But it absolutely is the film we wanted to make. I grew up a child of the 80s at the advent of the MTV era. And even as a kid, I was blown away by how completely bonkers and ludicrous and wonderful those early MTV videos were.
Yes.
You know, I have vivid memories of seeing the premiere of the Duran Duran Union of the Snake video.
Yes.
With like the snake iguana man, and I mean it's like, and Nick Rhodes is some kind of sage with it. I mean it's and they're all in this dystopian post-apocalyptic gear, and the people and animal. It's just crazy, and yet they went for it, and it hit, and it struck a nerve, you know. And so, and there are homages to some of our favorite videos all over Open. You know, Christina's makeup is an homage to the Warrior video from Scandal. There's a Wrapped Around Your Finger from The Police homage. We actually, when we were putting together the ideas for the videos, we had a music video playlist that was one of the most enjoyable parts of the pre-production process, of sort of the development process, is putting together our 10 or 15 music videos that we were going to base the way we shot these songs on.
Sure.
And we just said, we're not, we recognize that some people may look at this and go, what the hell are they doing? But we were going to embrace the weird and swing for the fence. And it's really gratifying that a lot of people get it. And I guess maybe people of a certain age, right?
Yeah, I get you.
That go back, that either lived through or have come to appreciate that era, MTV, then VH1 and pop-up video, and
yes,
I mean all of that is sort of in the DNA of this movie.
And we'll give a little sample, so this way you can judge for yourself. I know it's only about a 2-minute trailer, but it really does give you a taste of what is going on here. We're going to talk more about music, and we'll talk more about the film, and more about Miles, the actor, as well, because he's got another project that's coming out. He's got a small role in it, but we got to get into it while I got him here. But first, this is the film that is now available. You can check it out on video on demand. This is Open. Check it out.
Christina's okay with this?
Yes, we're open.
We're open.
She's on her first date tonight with an actor.
Eric LaRue.
TV legend.
A dream come true.
Eric LaRue.
Yeah, that's me.
There'll have to be rules.
Were you there from the beginning? It is possible to love more than one person at a time,
You're breaking into the band.
Eric is in the band.
He's an addition, not an original member. Did Christina tell you I taught here?
I never start seeing anybody without stalking first. I'm kidding.
But most of the time you're the stream. Love ain't no home.
What are we doing exactly?
Yeah, what are we doing exactly?
What do you think it takes to get a restraining order?
There's something wrong with me.
Nostalgia's a hell of a drug.
I can have this ideal to live up to.
Obsessive and harmless don't really go together.
And when you watch the movie, you'll understand more how these worlds sort of collide between now and the flashbacks of all the music, which, by the way, my first take when I saw the trailer, Berlin came to mind right away. Between the Metro at the beginning, and you could hear a little Take My Breath Away in the middle of it, it was like, boom, I know exactly where Miles
Metro is an absolute banger, man.
Yes. It's somebody who did modern rock for 10 years. And by the way, since you grew up around Louisiana, I got to give my props to my old guys, Mitch Cry, Kenny Vest, at the Zephyr out of Slidell, Louisiana, back in the day in the 90s. God bless them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I mean that stuff is it just emblazoned in my brain. It's it has become such an enormous part of my artistic identity, the music of that period. And it's Depeche Mode and The Cure and U2 and Peter Gabriel. It's just such and music. The art critic Walter Pater said, all art aspires to the condition of music. And what that means is music just has this way of creating emotion, of wrenching it out of you. You hear a song that moves you, the hair stand up on your arms, or you can smell the place you were when you heard that song for the first time, or you heard it in some really wonderful moment of your journey. Music is so incredibly powerful. And as filmmakers, we're all trying to get at that secret sauce, that magic elixir, that when your film can feel like that song or that piece of music that just gut punches you when you hear it. And so for me, this was just the next logical step in our progression as filmmakers, in our production company, in the Historia Films. But for me personally, as an artist, it felt like a kind of a coming full circle, and it was very cathartic in a lot of respects.
Oh, that's great. Well, when you get that, that's the bonus of it. If it's that cathartic, that's an amazing thing. The results in the film are a combination of things. It's not just Jeremy. It's you and your wife. Obviously, you have chemistry. That's a given. But at the same token, could that be a disadvantage? Have you ever felt like, okay, you know what? Somehow it's just not clicking that day, or suddenly, all right, we're taking work home with us, and like, all right, look, I love you, but please, no.
It's an occupational hazard for sure, to work with one's romantic partner, life partner, a spouse. But it's, for Lindsay and I, it's a risk that we take again and again and again, because we feel like collectively we are stronger creatively than we are as individuals. And she is just really one of the most talented humans I've ever been around in so many different areas. It's not just acting and singing and writing, but she was the production designer on Open. She designed the costumes. The wig work is largely hers. She just has this, she's such a brilliant world builder. And I'll be sitting, poring over the script, and, I'm the guy that's oftentimes at the keyboard pounding it out. And then she'll just come up with some idea out of the ether that I never thought of. And it's just, oh yeah, that's perfect.
Right.
That's perfect. So she is a fantastic collaborator and creative partner. Do we argue? Absolutely. We argue, sometimes quite passionately. But at the end of the day, we understand that we're both here to do a thing, to deliver this kind of vision.
Right.
And there our films too are oftentimes teaching sets. We had 8 student interns on Open from our film program here at Loyola. We did another film that I did not write or direct, but I produced, and it was under the Historia Films umbrella, called Boneface, which Jeremy also stars in, which we shot shortly before the strikes earlier this year. And that film had 12 students from Loyola on it. So it's a bigger calling for us. We do it, of course, because it's the great passion of our hearts. And movies have meant so much to me, and continue that. This work it's my lifeblood. It's the thing that keeps me putting one foot in front of the other. But at the same time, to provide opportunities, not only for students, but for our friends and those artists that are in our circle, that are in our retinue. And that's Jeremy, Elena Sanchez, Rich Montgomery, who's been in a couple of our films, Johann Miles. This was his third with us. This was our second with Will Forsythe.
Yeah, and I was about to touch on that a little bit. As a matter of fact, if I can get photo number 8, because William Forsythe, it seems like when your guys come on the set, like I could go back to the beginning as I was doing my homework with you. William Sadler, who's
Right.
in one of the best films of all time in my mind, The Shawshank Redemption. He'll always be remembered for that. He comes in one of your first films you've ever done. And he must have enjoyed the process because he came back again. So
yeah, that's it. Right behind me. There's Bill Sadler, the historian.
Give me a wide shot here, and Miles just duck, and we'll get that all in there. There it is. The Historian was his first film, and there you go. Thank you, Ming. I appreciate that. Now we can go back. But that's got to be high praise for you too, to sit there and say, okay, I do my first film. I suddenly get William Sadler. I get Glynis O'Connor. I mean, come on. Defy anybody who grew up around, because we're about the same age.
Yeah.
Grew up and did not see The Boy in the Plastic Bubble on ABC. Oh, we all know that movie.
Yeah. Everybody knows that movie, right?
Exactly. But that's a compliment to you. Not only are you giving back to the kids and giving opportunities, but it seems like these veteran actors who come on board want to do it again and again and again. And it's got to feel wonderful.
Well, and that movie was really special. The role that Colin Cunningham played, Chris Fletcher, and that was, again, I wrote the role for Colin. I was watching Falling Skies on TNT. You remember that series?
Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
Wiley and Colin. And I was like, he'd be perfect for this. And so I started writing it with him in mind, his vernacular, his cadence, and sent it to him. Never sent it to a single other actor. He committed to doing it. It was, that just doesn't happen. And with Bill Sadler, I think that if you write it, they will come. If you write for these character actors in particular, who, let's face it, unfortunately, they often get pigeonholed into these kind of one-note roles.
You're very right on that. And again, like you said, giving Jeremy the freedom to do stuff he never would have done ever else before. So it extends to people like Sadler and whoever else. If they want to work with you, they're going to get an opportunity to really flex their acting muscle.
And then they come down and they come to our set and they do our movies, and I think they see us as real collaborators. I mean, I'm not a dictator on set. I'm the type of guy that's like, with my cast, you've got a better idea than what's on the page. Let's try it. Let's do it. This is a partnership. We're finding these characters and these moments together. And I think they really feel like their voice matters to me,
right? And
their contributions matter, and they're going to really get to play, and we're going to find it together. There's some wonderful directors out there, don't get me wrong, for whom everything is meticulously mapped out and you do it this way, and they've made some incredible movies,
right?
But that's just not how I operate.
Yeah, you got to be true to yourself first off, and people are going to know that right away if you're being true to yourself, I would think.
I hope so. And it's rewarding, it means when an actor of the stature and resume of a Bill Sadler or a Will Forsythe wants to come back and do another movie with you. I mean, it says something, because these guys have been at it a very long time. They have hundreds of IMDb credits on films of every level, from, in the case of Sadler, Marvel to Shawshank Redemption, Die Hard 2, right? Bill and Ted, all the way, television, Roswell, all the way down the line to the indie world. And they're saying, hey, you're doing it the right way. When can we work together?
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That alone is like going, all right, I'm doing something right. And I like the fact that you come across as, like you said, you're not afraid to take a risk, because I think life is short kind of vibe, but also if you're going to do it, hey, if I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it on my principle, how I'm going to do it. And if it means taking a risk, let's take the risk and let's just go for it.
For sure. You have to. While it's too hard, it's too time consumptive, it's too expensive.
Right.
When you think of the amount of money spent on independent films relative to what the average American makes in a calendar year.
Well, yeah.
It's an enormous amount of money. It's an enormous time commitment, and you have to go for it every time. And I think that part of Open was about, there are some moments in my filmography where maybe I did play it a little too safe. Maybe I didn't.
Okay, so you learned something from the previous film. Sure, I can understand that. Absolutely.
And so open was just, we're not doing that this time. Every crazy idea that springs to mind, we're going to explore it.
That's why I'm encouraging people, go to Video On Demand, get the movie. You are in for a ride and a half. I guarantee you, you're not going to be disappointed. This is Miles Doleac. He's a filmmaker, the actor, the director. He'll even take out the trash in his office, but that's because it's his office. Here on the A Game, okay, random shots time. I don't know if London clued in on this, but basically, I take a random shot. I've stalked your social media. So the first thing I got to do is raise a toast and say, happy birthday to you a day late. You're not quite in the club yet, but you're getting there.
I am indeed. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
So, questions I've come up with. Okay, I got to start with this one. In my research, true or false? Did you really once serve pizza to Tom Hanks' kids?
True. That's true.
Explain that one.
I work. Wow, where did you find that? I worked for a catering company when I was out in LA in the early aughts, called Cater Crew, and they were contracted to cater the Governor's Ball of the Academy Awards.
Oh yeah, that's major. That's major.
Yeah, and of course, Tom was there, and the Governor's Ball, for those of you listeners who maybe never attended, because why would they? This is the catering is very high end. It's people like Wolfgang Puck and all the culinary
that we know,
icons of Los Angeles, right? And Tom was there, and I just happened to get his table, and I was plating some very high-end something, hors d'oeuvres, a mousse bouche, or I don't know. And he said, hey, do you have any pizza back there? One of my kids is jonesing for some pizza. And I'm like, well, I'll see what we can do.
Sure.
And I went back, and I believe Wolfgang was there that night. And I asked, and they somehow came up with a nice little flatbread pizza for Tom Hanks, of course, because why wouldn't they? Tom Hanks asked for it. But yeah, no, that's a true story.
That's wild. Gotta go music. And you kind of set it up earlier in the podcast as you were talking about bands ranging from Depeche Mode to Peter Gabriel and many others. So when it comes to that era of music, because I totally was like 80s, 90s alternative. That has always been my passion. But I get the feeling you're a sweet spot too. We know what you like, but as a music fan, who comes across in your mind, who was underrated in that period in your mind that you sit there and go, they should have been bigger?
The Church.
Oh, good call.
That I recently saw them at House of Blues here in New Orleans.
Oh wow!
I loved that the Starfish album, which has their most famous tune is "Under the Milky Way."
Yeah, but I mean, you also know "On Garden Moment," which is just a brilliant song.
Sure. But I mean, a number. I mean, Priest Aura, Gold Afternoon Fix. They have a number of albums that are just really, really spectacular. And I was kind of reminded of how great they were when I saw that show. And I was like, why didn't this band blow up?
Right.
I couldn't figure it out. Because they were playing these tunes and Reptile, Terra Novocaine.
Yes.
Monday Morning. And it was just like, it feels like hit after hit, banger after banger, and they just never quite return, made good on the promise of Starfish.
Right. Big in the UK, but they're considered a one-hit wonder here in the States.
Yeah, right, for sure. Most people know Under the Milky Way, but that's about it.
Yeah. And I'm going to add one more to your list, because when I was stalking your social media, like everybody during the pandemic, we're all doing these lists. And okay, here are some, all my all-time albums. When I came across the Cowboy Junkies, I just went, I love this band, because they are just one of those bands where I go, Anniversary Song and others that they've done, because they're another one. Everybody knows the cover of Sweet Jane, but
Mhm.
there's more to the Cowboy Junkies than just that.
Oh, it's such a great band. I've been fortunate to see them a couple of times.
Nice.
Margot Timmons is such an ethereal presence. The Black Eyed Man album from top to bottom is it's one of my all-time faves.
Well said.
So good. And so for, they're Canadian.
Yes.
It's so weird because, I grew up in Mississippi and, driving around in high school, listening to Black Eyed Man, listening to Southern Rain.
Yeah.
And Murder Tonight in the Trailer Park.
Great song. Yes.
I was like, this band is speaking to me. They're writing about where I am right now. It's amazing.
Now you grew up in Hattiesburg, right? So
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So I'm thinking about this in general. 90s radio in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It's not like you were gravitating to mainstream radio, and I don't think you had really alternate rock stations in Hattiesburg back in the day. So where were you finding this? What was it? MTV? Was it just stuff that you just kind of went, okay, my college radio station happened to have it or something like that?
I did. I watched a lot of MTV.
Okay.
I mean, I'm really grateful to my parents because they allowed me to watch MTV.
Mhm.
My favorite television show growing up was Miami Vice.
Oh yeah, music galore.
Right, music, right? I mean, that show changed the way that music was used in television.
Yes.
So I would hear these songs like Godley and Krem's Cry.
Yeah.
Like,
Still one of the best videos ever done.
It's
Absolutely.
such a great, right? Right? Or Peter Gabriel, that I think the first time I ever really, maybe not the first time I heard it, but the first time I really listened to In the Air Tonight was on the pilot episode of Miami Vice.
Okay, that makes sense. Sure.
And in that sequence, the way it's used, I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible stuff.
So in a lot of levels, that whole meshing really has influenced you so much to be the person that you are today, where it's like, hey, this is why I have the passion for music. This is why I wanted to get into film. Where I'm going.
Yeah, and I also, I had I had a membership to one of those CD clubs where remember those where you paid like a monthly fee and they would send you like 5 or 10 CDs.
Right. You did the first bitch for 13 for $1, and then you wound up having to buy 3 for the year to keep your membership. Yes.
Right, absolutely. And I would oftentimes this is how I discovered one of my all-time favorite bands, REM. They recommended, sort of like their featured album was Document.
Okay, yeah.
And I was just like, I'll order it. And, now I have every REM album ever made in my vinyl collection.
I love that. I'm at the point where it's like going, Miles, I need to introduce you to Matt Pinfield because nowadays he wants to do acting. I'm going, the ultimate music library in one head with your passion. Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
That may have to happen. Doing random shots of Miles Doleac here on the A Game. Okay, I want photo number 1 because it is a photo of Miles and his wife, I believe. But you may notice what they're wearing. Miles, I have managed to figure out you are a diehard New Orleans Saints fan. I would not expect anything less living down there. So I'm not going to go with the positive because I'm a Jets fan. We know everything's negative. So with that in mind, the worst move in Saints history was either A, drafting Russell Erxlaven, the kicker, in the first round many moons ago, or trading your entire draft to get running back Ricky Williams.
I think I'm going to have to go with Ricky Williams. Look, the kicking game in the NFL is absolutely critical.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying that was a smart move by any stretch.
Okay, good.
But I do appreciate the sentiment. This year we held on to a rookie kicker, Blake Groupie, and let Will Lutz go. And
that was bold. That was bold because Lutz is such a good kicker.
Yeah, and I know Groupie has missed a couple of kicks. One that would have been a game winner against Green Bay, and I think the kid has a bright future. He's got a big leg, and he was 5 of 6 in yesterday's debacle, and the only one he missed was 54, and he just didn't get all of it. But I mean, I think I'd have to go with Ricky Williams, not only because it didn't pan out on the field, but because it was such a sideshow off the field.
That's true.
And those things when that kind of thing happens, it sort of becomes the primary focus of what the player is doing.
Right.
It just toxic, seeps into the entire proceeding in the locker room.
Right.
And you get players infighting in the locker room, and players starting to question what's going on in the front office. And, so I just think that I would have to go with the Ricky Williams.
As a football fan, and I got to say this for the Saints fans that may be watching this, Taysom Hill to me is the most unique and the most fun guy to watch on the field. And it seems like at least 2 games a year, he's single-handedly winning you games. And to anybody who doesn't know, here's a guy who is a former quarterback, will line up as a slot receiver. He'll run the football out of the quarterback position. He can run for 100 yards. He's tough as nails. And uniquely Saints, because no other team would have the guts to try this situation, what they call the Wildcat. It's wild.
Right. I mean, yesterday when Rashid Shaheed went down, he's back deep on kickoffs.
Right.
Receiving kickoffs. He's on the punt team. Yep. He's a gunner on the kickoff team. I mean, he plays like 7 positions. He is truly one of the most unique football players that we've ever seen. And as Saints fans, it's, there's a, I don't know quite how many carries he had yesterday, but there's a statistic that when Taysom Hill has 7 or more carries from the backfield,
right,
the Saints are something like 16-1 or something, some ungodly thing. So I'm like, that doesn't sound like rocket science to me. Why don't we just have Taysom Hill carry the ball 7 or more times every game? Of course, then yesterday he had a fumble inside the 10, but yeah, he is a unique player who can take over a game. He runs like a freaking bull. I mean, he's just he's the type of player that can just excite everybody on the sideline, everybody on the field, in the crowd. He's got this kind of electric presence when he gets going. You have to admire the sheer grit of the guy. I mean, the guy loves playing football, and he does anything the team asks of him.
That's what I admire most about him. Absolutely. Got 2 more in random shots. The one thing I've discovered about you, you're a very intelligent man. I mean, you work at Loyola University in New Orleans now. You have multiple degrees. So how many, with college, working, and degrees, how many associations to universities do you have in your life?
How many university associations? Is that the question?
Well, yeah, because I think you have at least 3 degrees, and you've worked at least a couple of universities. I mean, if I'm recollecting, you work at Loyola, you've worked at Southern Miss, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And I think I counted 3 degrees. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in drama from the North Carolina School of the Arts. I have a master's degree from University of Southern Miss.
Okay.
Where I also worked. I have a PhD in history from Tulane University.
There we go.
Right next door.
Right.
And then I currently serve as chair of the film program at Loyola. I also took some classes. It's sort of how I got into the strictly academic realm. I took some classes at UCLA when I was out there in the early aughts. So how many is that? 5?
I got 5. That's what I was thinking. It was probably around 5. And I'm sitting here thinking, Miles, you're way too smart to be in this business. You realize this?
It's all related, man. It really is. I mean, I think all the time about my work in history when I'm writing my screenplays, and when I'm thinking about story, and when I'm thinking about archetypes, and it all just dovetails. It sounds strange, but it's taken me down a long circuitous path to end up where I think I'm exactly supposed to be. But getting that PhD in history was absolutely critical in that journey.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I wouldn't be a university administrator without it.
There you go. There's a purpose for everything. I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot. One more random shot question. I'm going to pull up photo number. I think it's 5, Ming. Give me a break. There we go. Okay, so The Family Plan is coming on Apple Plus. Miles does have a small role in the film that features Mark Wahlberg, Michelle Monaghan, and Maggie Q. If I'm not mistaken, your character's name is Gold Chain?
That's what they tell me. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
So,
it's one of those things where I wasn't going to ask about the character. I was going to ask it from a filmmaker's perspective. When you're on a big set like that in a major budget film, better way of putting it, because you do a lot of smaller budgets. You're on set. You're getting an experience. Okay, I got a small role in this, but do you take something out of the experience that you can in your head go, oh, I can apply this later on to maybe one of my future films?
yeah, I mean, it's this is, by the way, is a really cool project, and I'm looking forward to going out to the premiere in Las Vegas on December 13th.
Fantastic.
And walking the carpet with Mark and the gang, and also sneaking in a U2 show at the Sphere.
Oh well, gee, why am I not?
I knew you'd appreciate that.
Really? Of course
It was everything I could do to not make a special trip to Vegas to see U2 at the Sphere, because I've seen them several times. Most recently when they did the Joshua Tree anniversary tour, they played Joshua Tree front to back, and I was using as my excuse. Well, Larry Mullen is not playing with them on this tour because I think he tore his rotator cuff or something. I'm not
mistaken, yes,
and he's rehabbing. So I was like, okay, Lindsay, we're not going to make a special trip to Vegas to see U2 at the Sphere. But then when I got invited to the Family Plan premiere, I was like, wow. U2's playing at the Sphere. Anyway, but that was not your question.
No, I love that. Again, when you brought it up, I'm like, oh, why am I not shocked? Please, come on.
What I have learned being on tiny films and giant films is that when you're everybody's there on set together, there's a camera and there's some lights and there's some actors and somebody yells action, and it's all the same. It's all the same.
So it really comes down to storytelling then from
what that big budget affords you is better cameras, better lighting, better production design, name cast, really nice trailers for the name cast, really great catering. There's all these types of things. But at the end of the day, you take a camera, you point it at a subject, and somebody yells action, and hopefully magic ensues. And whether that's Mark Wahlberg or whether that's me and Lindsay and Elena and Jeremy on Open,
right?
The sort of essence of the craft is the same. So it is that film, though, I have to say, it was a lot of fun, and I did get to work really closely with Mark, who's very generous, which, by the way, is not always true of major stars.
And I've heard stories, absolutely, but not of him, obviously, yeah.
Sometimes, with folks like me coming on playing smaller roles, and especially I hope people will watch this movie. It's really funny. The premise is really, really great. It was working. We had some physical business, and there's some humor where the jokes have to be timed just right. And there are some actors who would have just, taken over there and, told me how they wanted me to do it. And Mark was not that.
That's great.
There was a lot of room to play. And Simon, the director, was also really wonderful and generous. And Michelle Monaghan is just absolutely lovely and wonderful. And so I hope that film does well. I will just say about my character that everything is not as it seems.
Okay. So don't judge
it as Mark's character thinks. Well, it's a good bit. I'll say that. It's a good bit. I don't think I can say anything more, but it's a good bit, and it was a lot of fun being on that show.
You'll find it later this month on Apple Plus. If you have Apple TV, then you're going to enjoy that, so find it there. Again, one more time, the film that we were here to talk about, Photo Number 2, which is now available on video on demand. Open, starring Jeremy London, also starring Lindsay Ann Williams, the wife of the writer, director, and also star of the film, Miles Doleac. Miles, thanks so much for the time, man. I had a blast.
Oh, me too. This is great, man. Talking music, talking Saints. That's a struggle, but the struggle as a Jets fan too.
Oh, so. Please! I'm now living with the fail Mary. Come on now, Jesus.
Yeah. Is Aaron Rodgers coming back this year? Is that going to be a thing?
I don't know. We're 4-7. I would tend to think if he's smart, he'll go, I'll wait till next year. Now, just sit back and count your money.
I can't even imagine. I know we're wrapping up. I cannot even imagine a signing like that. I'm sure Jets Nation was just ecstatic, excited. Yes. Super Bowl aspirations, right?
You got it.
And the very first drive, it's like a minute into the game, he goes down with a torn Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be very high on the list of most devastating moments in the sport.
The Jets have had many of them. I mean, the sad part of it is we go from that to just this past week. We're like, we have a glimmer of hope. It's 10-6. We just intercepted Tagovailoa. We're going into halftime. We're only down 4 points. Okay, we'll throw up the Hail Mary. No big deal. We're only going to be down 4. All right, it's intercepted. All right, he'll just run. He's still running.
Mm-hmm.
He's still running. What do you mean he's still running? When he scored the touchdown, I just went, well, the season's over now. There you go. Thank you very much. God. Oh.
Wow.
Look.
It sucks to be mid, doesn't it?
Look, at least
right there with you.
Yeah, I know. The Saints have had some success, but not a tremendous amount. The Jets haven't won a Super Bowl since before you were born, and we'll leave it at that. And again,
okay, fair enough.
Absolutely. Happy birthday again, Miles, and have a great year ahead, man, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you covering our film and having me on.
No, my pleasure. That's a wrap for the A-Game. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Please sign up for my YouTube channel. You can see it right underneath my name here. It won't cost you anything. You get all 103 now episodes of the A-Game. Thanks again to Miles Doleac. And again, watch open on video on demand. Have a great week ahead and take care of yourself.